Introducing the all-new Italiano range of pizza. Pizza Ultimo. Pizza Hut.
Hello there, a very good evening and welcome to your Primetime News Bulletin. I'm Shane Silva.
I'm Sonali Wanigabaduge. 3 Ohio women believed to be abducted separately about a decade ago were found alive at a Cleveland house near where they were last seen.
And North Korea warned that it will strike back if a single shell falls into its territorial waters during the joint drills between South Korea and the United States.
The News First International Desk has more details on this story later on in the news bulletin. But first we start off with a look at tonight's headlines.
Discussions take place on the importation of crude oil from Azerbaijan. Is the electricity tariff relief actually a relief? Inclement weather claims the life of one person and affects over 23,000. And the no-confidence motion against Minister Dylan Pereira defeated in Parliament.
The no-confidence motion tabled against Minister for Employment, Promotion and Welfare Dylan Pereira was defeated in Parliament. The UNP tabled the no-confidence motion in Parliament today. 32 MPs voted for the motion while 136 MPs voted against. Accordingly, the no-confidence motion against Minister Dylan Pereira was defeated with a majority of 104 votes. Minister of External Affairs Professor G.L. Peiris addressed Parliament during the debate today.
The problem that we face is that just as those in that country have to abide by Sharia law, we too had to abide by it. What is important here is whether there are justifiable reasons to bring a no-confidence motion against Honourable Minister Dylan Pereira, who took this responsibility.
In the meantime, a demonstration was held this morning in support of Minister of Foreign Employment, Promotion and Welfare Dylan Pereira.
This demonstration was held close to the Parliament roundabout. A large group, including ministers, UPFA parliamentarians, were present at the demonstration. Minister Dylan Pereira was extended a warm welcome at the demonstration. Subsequently, the demonstrators made their way to the entry gate of Parliament. The UNP did not lose faith in me recently. It started 25 years ago. When I entered politics in 1988, the UNP tried to assassinate me on 3 occasions. The motion that is being tabled as a no-confidence motion has transformed into a confidence motion. After Dylan Pereira was given this portfolio, the Foreign Employment Service has been functioning well. The people have faith when they are going abroad. The people of Badulla have gathered here to support Minister Dylan Pereira against these false charges.
Meanwhile, the national organizer of the United Bhikkhu Front, Venerable Ulapane Sumangalathera, says it is disappointing that the work of the opposition is limited to such trivial affairs.
What we can see here is that the current opposition leader has attempted to direct the attention of the people to a different area when there are several other responsibilities before him. Recently, when an impeachment motion was brought against the Chief Justice and it was directly affecting the people, the opposition leader took no notice of it, cast the impeachment motion aside, evaded his responsibility and went abroad. This worthless act that the opposition leader is engaged in now, making a national problem out of this minor issue, evading his responsibilities in other issues, makes it evident that the opposition leader is acting on the agendas of various individuals instead of the burning issues in the country, as is habitual for him.
In his column, J. Rogers Jottings on our website www.newsfirst.lk, veteran political commentator DBS J. Raj says that TNA parliamentarian and attorney-at-law M.A. Sumandiran is to initiate legal action on behalf of the former deputy mayor of Colombo, Azad Sali, who is currently being held on detention orders.
DBS Jairaj is a regular contributor to the newsfirst.lk website on a wide range of topics under the column heading Jairaj's Jottings. In a recent contribution, Jairaj quoted MP Sumandiran as saying that a fundamental rights petition would be filed in the Supreme Court later this week. Speaking in Parliament today, MP Sumandiran expressed these views.
We do have a law that makes confession admissible. The only law that is extant in our country today that makes confessions admissible. And all of us know how these confessions are obtained. This Prevention of Terrorism Act is still being made use of against political opponents. Ms. Azad Sali's situation is an example, but that is not the only one. There is a regulation made under the Prevention of Terrorism Act that makes it possible for the defense authorities to call somebody a Sarandi and send them for what is purported to be rehabilitation. You are depriving a person of his personal liberty without any judicial intervention. Such is the rigor of this draconian law.
Meanwhile, issuing a public statement, 117 signatories, including prominent members of the clergy, civil society organizations and eminent personalities, have called for the immediate release of Azad Sali.
In the public statement, the signatories vehemently condemned the arrest of former Deputy Mayor of Colombo Azad Sali and called for his immediate release in the absence of any demonstrable evidence. The statement reads, quote, "The unlawful arrest and detention of Mr. Saleh is in a context where there have been increasing attacks and threats against minorities, a growing spate of incidents of religious intolerance and clamping down of critics of the government and dissent on the whole," unquote. The signatories say, quote, "We may not agree with all of Mr. Saleh's political positions. However, we are deeply concerned with the treatment meted towards him, which seems to be a result of his position against hate propaganda and opposition to extremist groups," unquote. Whilst recognizing the responsibility of the state to investigate hate speech and other actions aimed at inciting communal disharmony, the signatories highlight the lack of fair and due process on the part of the state in the arrest and detention of Azad Saleh. The signatories add, quote, "Sadly, this incident is yet another reminder that the government has resorted to strong-arm tactics to silence and harass critics while turning a blind eye when actual incidents of violence occur," unquote.
Meanwhile, the National Peace Council of Sri Lanka, a civil society organization, says that the arrest of Azad Sali under the PTA highlights the vulnerability of those who stand in the opposition to the government on the question of the civil and political rights of the country's ethnic and religious minorities.
Issuing a communique, the National Peace Council of Sri Lanka notes that the state is expected to uphold the rule of law, which requires the law to be enforced without regard to race, ethnicity or religion of the offenders. The statement reads that there is no place for discrimination in the criminal justice system between those who are politically with the government and those who are not. It adds that discrimination by law enforcement officers involving minorities infringe on constitutionally protected fundamental rights. The National Peace Council appeals to the government to release Azad Saleh forthwith and not create an impression that instigators of communal hatred are spared if they politically support the government, but those who challenge them are arrested if they are from the political opposition. The National Peace Council also calls on the executive, legislative and judicial arms of government to recognize the negative effects of the Prevention of Terrorism Act and take steps to repeal it.
Meanwhile, a fundamental rights petition was filed in the Supreme Court today, while a habeas corpus was filed in the Court of Appeal seeking the release of former Deputy Mayor of Colombo and General Secretary of the National Unity Alliance Azad Sali, who is currently in the custody of the Criminal Investigations Department.
The fundamental rights petition was filed by Attorney at Law Gauri Sangari, while the petitioner in the habeas corpus petition is Azad Sali's wife, Rinosha A. Sali. Both petitions cite the Inspector General of Police N.K. Ilangakun, the Director of the CID, Sub-Inspector of Police Lasantha Ratnayaka and the Attorney General as respondents. The fundamental rights petitions also cites the Secretary of the Ministry of Defence and Urban Development as a respondent. Both petitions state that Sali was arrested at about 5:55 a.m. on the 2nd of May when around 100 members of the police STF arrived at his residence. The petitions say that Sali is being illegally detained at the CID and that his family have not been allowed to visit him. The fundamental rights petition seeks a declaration from court that Sali's fundamental rights have been violated and an order that he be released. The habeas corpus petition requests court to issue writs on the respondents requiring them to produce Sali in court and initiate legal action.
Chairman of the Tangal Pradesh Sabha, who was arrested over the murder of a foreign national and molesting a woman, released on bail. Azad Salih remains detained. UPFA Urban Council in Tangol arrested for molesting a 14-year-old girl released on bail. Azad Salih remains detained. Chairman of the Akurasa Pradeshya Sabha charged with raping a minor released on bail. Azad Salih remains detained. Duminda Silva, suspect in the murder of late Bharata Lakshman Premachandra, released on bail. Azad Salih remains detained. Ruling party member of the Veligapala Pradeshya Sabha arrested over a murder, released on bail. Azad Salih remains detained. Chairman of the Karulagaswara Pradeshya Sabha arrested over assaulting the chief manager of the Pradeshya Sabha, released on bail. Azad Salih remains detained. UPFA Western Provincial Councillor arrested over the murder of a businessman, released on bail. Azad Salih remains detained. For yours and our attention.
The Colombo district received rainfall of 134.1 millimeters in the 24-hour window that ended at 8:30 this morning. The heavy downpours also flooded Colombo and its suburbs as well as byroads, houses and business establishments. The inclement weather has claimed the life of one person thus far.
Peta in Colombo was the worst affected area due to the floods. All the roads in Peta were inundated, inconveniencing pedestrians and motorists. The locals charge that this situation has arisen as there is no proper drainage system for the floodwaters to recede. Residents point out that it is disappointing to note that rainfall that lasted for several hours resulted in Colombo being inundated. We have been rendered helpless due to these floods. We have no clothes, we have no way to eat or drink. Everything is gone. Many houses on either side of the canal that flows close to the Leslie Ranagala Mawat in Vanathamulla Boralla were inundated due to the floods. 30 families that were affected by the flood in Vanathamulla are currently being sheltered at 3 community centres. The flood waters in several areas had receded by this morning. The ground floor flats in Maligavatta were also inundated. The locals in the area lament that this situation arose due to the lack of a proper mechanism for the flood waters to recede. Can the water be pumped with a tube that is only 2 inches in diameter? Engineers should come here and look into this. They understand better than us.
No one could make it to the funeral of my daughter. We had to pay the fire brigade to come and pump out the water. It was after that we took away the body.
Many roads and houses in Kotikavatta were inundated by the floods. Our correspondent said that Kuda, Budgammo and Kalnimulla were the worst affected areas. Transportation along the 175 bus route plying from Kolpiti to Kohilavatta was disrupted due to the floods. There are construction sites everywhere and no way for the water to recede. The lowlands have been excavated and there is no way for the water to recede.